What's up guys, I'm Kyle, also known as the Pandaman. In today's video, I'm going to tell you the story of how I ruptured both patellar tendons, and here's a hint. It's got something to do with what's right behind me. If you're watching this, you've more than likely suffered from a patellar tendon rupture or some other devastating knee injury. Back in 2012, I was running my gym full-time. I was a full-time phys ed teacher, super busy schedule, burning the candle at both ends, had a really bad case of pneumonia, overcame that. At the time, I was playing in a men's basketball league. Started feeling pretty good. It was a late night game, and I'll never forget the moment. I was sprinting down the court after one of my students' fathers, who was on the other team. He's on a fast break, I'm sprinting, bam, left leg explodes basically, for lack of a better term. I don't know what happened. I went down, extreme pain, hitting the floor. Guys are coming over. They're looking, they're covering their eyes, walking away. The only thing I could think of when it happened was that my leg got dislocated, my thigh from my lower half. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Pain was off the charts. They wound up calling the game, taking me to the hospital in the ER, and they keep asking me at that time, are you gonna vomit? Are you feeling okay? Are you gonna pass out? I'm like, why are they asking me this? I guess they could see the leg and how my patellar, the kneecap, was pretty much up in the outer part of my quad. We get to the hospital. Some of my buddies call Devin, so her and my parents ride up to the hospital. They do some initial x-rays and all that. I'm laying in the bed, and the doctor comes in, you ruptured your patellar tendon. I started crying on the spot. I'd never heard of anybody doing this before, but I knew it was bad. I knew I was in for a whole new world. Being that my profession as a gym owner, coach, and phys ed teacher, everything was about physicality and moving around. So it was devastating to me. Next day, we go back and see a doctor up there, had terrible bedside manners. So we decided to go to another doctor that I'd been to for my ankles when I was back in high school. And now he had just been specializing in the knees. So they do the MRI, all this type of stuff. Turns out the patellar tendon snapped into 4 pieces, vertically and horizontally. Most people, when they have any type of tendon rupture, it's called an avulsion fracture. The tendon pretty much stays intact and it snaps away from the bone, but the tendon's intact. When people reach out to me to help them with patellar tendons, I always ask that question, were you in pain when it happened or were you not? If there was no pain, they most likely had an avulsion fracture, which is a really good thing. It's essentially a different injury though, a much smoother road to recovery. When he gets in there and he looks, the IT band had snapped, the kneecaps blew out, patellofemoral ligament snapped, and 3 other ligaments were torn, all within the knee. Devastation, like my leg exploded. At that time, there was no information out there on patellar tendon ruptures. I couldn't find anything. I was looking, and it was starting to get scary, to be quite honest with you, because I had no clarity. I had nothing to look at and say, okay, this is how this dude recovered from this. Let me follow this. Thank goodness I was friendly with Louis Simmons of Westside Barbell. Louis ruptured his patellar tendon back in the early 80s. So I got on a call with Louis and he tells me what I got to do. Louis trained the posterior chain. This is all stuff I have in my book. The exact things you need to be training to recover from this that I learned, right? And the whole reason I wrote the book, by the way, was because there was nothing else out there. And I turned this devastation into something positive. This is a lot about your mind when you're overcoming this. I was still stuck at 72 degrees range of motion 4 months out from that surgery. I was getting scared that I was never gonna be able to use my leg again. But something Louis told me, he said, you could have full range of motion, you could be pain-free, but until you're over an injury mentally, you're not healed. I set a goal in my mind that I was gonna go back to playing basketball by the 6-month mark. Remember, I couldn't really bend my leg that much. I was doing all the PT stuff, which I thought was silly. I always tell people, man, you're not really gonna do much there for your patellar tendon, unless they've dealt with this before with an athlete. They had me doing like the straight leg raises. A lot of you guys message me, I can't do my straight leg raise. Don't even waste your time on that. You don't need to do that. You gotta strengthen the posterior chain. You gotta get the glutes and hamstrings stronger. As you get stronger back there, range of motion will open up. That is what I have found. Fortunately, fast forward, so that was April of 2012, I decided to do a bodybuilding show to come back and build this leg up. Kind of like a motivation for me. Regain full usage of this leg, put the muscle back on and all that. So that's 2014. I'm getting ready for the show. The show was in June. There was 2 shows in June that year. Make it through that. Pretty much developed the leg all the way back to where it was. Come that fall, November of 2014, I'm once again playing in a men's league. Playing really well too. And I'm still playing really well. So this is a whole takeaway for you guys. There was a cross-court pass thrown to me. and I go to jump to go up and get it. Devin was actually at this game, my wife. And on the takeoff, felt like my leg disappeared. But this time, it was my other leg, my right leg. Boom, come down, hit the ground, leg bends out 90 degrees that way because there's no support. I knew instantly it was my patellar tendon. I'm slamming the floor saying, please be my ACL, please be my ACL. But the pain was almost exactly the same as the other one. They called the ambulance. We turned it down because I'm like, I know what it is. We'll call Dr. Getcha, who is my surgeon, tomorrow. So we get in to see him the next day. He does a scan. It is an identical injury to what happened to my left leg. Tendon snapped into 4 pieces, IT band, patellofemoral ligament, knee capsule, 3 other ligaments. Identical. So the first was sprinting in the basketball court. The second was an explosive jump, taking off. I felt pity for about 5 minutes with that. Devin allowed me to feel pity for 5 minutes. But the blessing was everything I put in the book, everything I learned from the first time around, like I'm gonna test everything now on this leg. I didn't ice this leg one time. You only use ice for pain, guys. Don't use it for healing. It doesn't work that way. So I put all these things to work. I used a compression sleeve nonstop. I got off the crutches much quicker. I started deadlifting within like 3 weeks. Again, training that posterior chain. You don't really need much range of motion in your knee for that, just a slight bend. I was able to recover so much quicker with my right leg. Now remember, with this injury, you're looking at a 12 to 18 month timeline. Now you're gonna feel better before that. Again, I played basketball 6 months after the first one. I was not ready to play. I was just doing it for mental reasons to prove to myself I had no fear of this. But that leg kept swelling up at that point. I had to get it drained, so it wasn't quite ready. By the 6 month mark, you're probably gonna be sitting in a pretty good spot if you follow stuff that I tell you. If you've gotten my book or if you've watched any of the videos I have on this, you're gonna be in a pretty good spot. As you get to the 9-12 month mark, it's kind of gonna be a thing of the past. It might get stiff sometimes, but the blessing is, guys, right after I'm done shooting this video for you, I'm going to jiu-jitsu. I play basketball. I just did a marathon this past year. I do everything. My knees feel better than they did before, which is pretty amazing. No inflammation, there's no tightness, none of that stuff. The only thing that you would know that I had this injury was the 6 or 7 inch scar that goes up both knees. But that's it. And I attribute a lot of that to what I do with my fasting and how I train. My body has so little inflammation, and that's gonna impact your recovery. When I wrote the first book, I put some nutrition stuff in there to the best of my knowledge at the time from bodybuilding and all that. Get your fats in, get your proteins, blah, blah, blah. If it happened to me again, I would be fasting. The second one, I was already doing intermittent fasting. So I started implementing that with the bodybuilding show that prior summer. So I've been through it twice, and the research shows if you're gonna rupture a patellar tendon again, it's much more likely it's gonna be your other leg like happened to me. Now when I play, when I go to jiu-jitsu, do I have any fear of this happening again? You bet I don't. There's no fear whatsoever. You can recover from this completely. If you need help, just reach out. Let me know, post a comment below. Love helping people that have been through this because I know what you're going through. Remember, this is a great thing when you look back on it. You're gonna have to really master some of your mindset to get through this. Follow the principles. Don't do what they tell you to do at the doctor most of the time. That's just a protocol for the Homer Simpsons, the guy that's just gonna stay on the couch and be a couch potato. We don't want that. So that's the story of how I ruptured both patellar tendons. They feel better than they did prior, so there is hope for you. I need you to do a few things for me. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button so you never miss anything that I put out for you.